Okay, today we're talking with Army veteran Major General Robert Mixon with Level 5 Associates. All right, General, appreciate you being here today. Like to go back and tell us what you did in the Army.
Well, Joe, I was fortunate in the Army to grow up in the cavalry. I joined the cavalry when I graduated from the academy because I'd watched, I think, almost all the John Wayne movies. And so I wanted to be a cavalry officer. So
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to do that and went over to Germany and served in the 11th Cavalry Regiment, the Black Horse, and we were patrolling the east-west German border in the mid 70s.
Hmm.
Pretty high adventure in those days.
Yeah.
Like the end of the draft and the beginning of the volunteer army, a lot of dynamics that made leadership really tough. But it was a great unit with great soldiers, and subsequently I served in the other two cavalry regiments, the Second Cavalry Regiment and the Third Cavalry Regiment. So I'm
Hmm.
a member of what they call the Lucky 16
Ah,
to serve in all three of those regiments, and just an honor to do that. Uh, they finally took me out of tanks and Bradleys after a while, and forced me to do other things. But I certainly enjoyed being part of that combined arms team. Had the privilege of going to school at the Army's behest a couple of times and teaching at West Point for 3 years. Taught military history, which was a lot of fun.
yeah.
And then had the privilege of commanding a cavalry squadron, a brigade in the Second Infantry Division, uh, command the Seventh Infantry Division itself, which was an enormous honor. Served with General Colin Powell and some other great leaders, Joe, as I talked to you about General Jack
Yeah.
Sheehan, Hal Estes, John Shelley Cacciavilli, just a host of wonderful leaders who took the time to teach me what right looks like. And
Yeah.
hopefully I've been able to carry that forward into my corporate life.
Yeah. So you've had some incredible command leadership experience, 33 years in the Army. What was your transition like coming out of the Army going into the civilian world?
I would say shock and awe is probably an adequate term here, Joe. I was, 2 weeks I walked off the parade field, there at Fort Carson, Colorado, and into a family-owned manufacturing business there in Western New York, and right into the Great Depression of 2008,
Yeah.
2009. We were stunned by the swiftness by which the economy just bottomed as the credit markets collapsed, and
Yeah.
you didn't even know if you could draw money out of the bank with the ATM. That's People don't remember that very well, but I do.
Right.
And we had um, 200 people in the company as a family-owned business. We made custom whiteboard kits, very niche market, a lot of catalog sales, mostly catalog sales. And boy, when it went down, we had to make some very hard choices. So the transition for me was dramatic, and I was, I think, fortunate to get through it. But I don't think I was well prepared for that transition.
Yeah.
I think the military is doing better now than it did then in 2007 and 8 on helping soldiers transition. But I still think we have a lot of work to do, Joe, just in acclimating veterans to the difference in cultures. Despite whatever company or organization you go into,
Hmm.
there's going to be some shock and awe.
Yeah, absolutely. I know 0708, the big housing market crash, which was basically brought on by the massive financial collapse. It's
Yeah,
they say we still haven't. A lot of statistics show we still haven't even recovered. Like there was such a gap in home building for so long, such a dramatic shutdown that we still have a housing shortage, believe it or not, because we haven't ever caught back up from what happened back then. So,
yep, I
um,
agree.
did your was that your job at the manufacturing company? Was that actually like you just got hired there to go work at that company, or what was that relationship?
Yeah, they were looking for senior military officers to come into manufacturing companies throughout the northeastern central U.S.
Hmm.
um, to basically provide a leadership structure for the companies,
Okay.
not necessarily to know the technical aspects of manufacturing. Although we had to learn those, you had to learn how to run a production line, you had to learn how to get product out the door safely, efficiently, and effectively. But they really wanted that leadership framework that they expected senior military leaders would bring. So um, I tried to bring some of that. I tried not to um, overthink some of it because, in the military, that structure is so pronounced. In the corporate world, it's not as pronounced. And you can find yourself, drifting into a chain of command form of thinking and not really a teamwork framework of thinking that
Yeah.
is very, very valuable in the corporate world, and you have to nurture it. It doesn't happen because of an FM or TM or publication.
Yeah. A lot of that extreme structure and assumed authority and those kind of things they're just not there. They're it's like you have to earn everything, every
Yeah,
possible thing along the
yeah.
way.
I
Earn the
mean,
respect of everybody, right?
of course, if you own the company, then you don't have to demonstrate your worth every day because you are the company in some way. Everybody else has to earn it, as we said. Saving Private Ryan. We have to earn it, and as veterans, we need to go into organizations with our eyes wide open and thinking about the fact that whatever rank you had on your collar or what your bio said in the military, that only
Mhm.
resonates about this much in the corporate world. It may get you in the door, but it's not going to assure your success by any stretch.
Absolutely. All right, back talking with Army veteran Major General Robert Mixon with Level 5 Associates. So, Robert, you were in the manufacturing company there in the state of New York for a couple of years. What did you end up doing after that?
After that, I went into a not-for-profit, a 501c3,
Uh-huh.
CDS Life Transitions there in in the Rochester area. I had never been exposed to an organization like that, mission-driven organization.
Yeah.
But I met a remarkable CEO by the name of Sankar Siwanath, who was passionate about serving individuals who had dreams and helping them achieve a meaningful life. And together, we built a program called Warrior Salute for men and women with traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress,
Hmm.
military sexual trauma. We basically took a lot of the tools that were already in place with CDS Life Transitions and established a new program, community based, that ultimately became a strong partner of the VA in providing life and job transition to veterans who just need a little help to get both feet on the ground.
Hmm. So what was your experience in the nonprofit world like?
It also was, the shock and awe was there too. You think not for profit is the way successful organizations like that operate. That's not true. Not for profit is a misnomer in many ways. You've got to take in more money than you spend, no matter whether you're a manufacturing company that's privately owned or a not for profit that is, not allowed to have profits, if you will.
Right.
But they still have to generate revenue. They have to generate the ability to make payroll and to provide, a safety net in case
Yep.
the money stream dries up, which can happen in many organizations in the not-for-profit sector. So it was a real learning curve, but we were able to do that and become financially viable. Even more so, Sankar was the visionary behind this.
Hmm.
But today, CDS Life Transitions has 9 business units and revenue approaching $200 million a year, serving 1,500 people with intellectual disabilities, and we've served over 400 veterans with traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress. And our success rate is 90%.
Wow, that's awesome.
90% of the veterans are living successfully independently now, Joe.
That's great. Yeah, the nonprofit world, like a lot of times, it seems appealing because you think the stress of trying to generate revenue is gone, which is appealing to a lot of people. But you end up spending most of your time going out asking for money, trying to raise money, and you're raising money in a different way.
You are. We had a manufacturing company inside the 501c3 of CDS, and it's called Unistel at the time, and we packaged spices
Huh.
for many of the military units deployed around the world. And it was a strong business line, but it was also fragile because of the military demand. As the drawdown occurred towards the end of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, we had to reinvent ourselves as a company in order to be competitive in the spice packaging market and to maintain the jobs for the people that we served. So veterans, as well as people with intellectual disabilities who were not veterans, they depended on Unistel for part of their purpose in life. And so we had to make money, but we were also mission driven. And that was a real challenge. It really was.
Yeah. So ultimately, um, you got into corporate leadership and
Hmm.
culture, and also a part of that was still assisting veterans going into the civilian workplace. Can you expand upon that?
Yeah, in 2014, I realized a dream that had been back of my mind for a long time, which was to have my own company. And initially with a partner, and then became my own company a couple of years later. Level 5 Associates was and is a leadership company that provides individuals and teams with a values-based leadership model based on 6 principles that are not rocket science, and didn't have them through original thinking, because I don't know if I ever had an original thought. But these 6 principles were basically the touchstones of the leadership model that I used with individuals and organizations, and have now for 11 years. So I can briefly describe those, Joe, for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
The first one is set the azimuth. Your mission, your intent. You remember the leader's intent from your experience in the Marine Corps and mine in the Army.
Hmm.
Instead of vision, I use intent. Excuse me. The third term or third component of azimuth are values. What do we believe in? And the fourth component is what are our behaviors, our culture? How do we manifest those values? How do you walk the talk? So principle 1 is set the azimuth. Principle 2 is listen. My mom told me, and she's about 93 now, an awesome, awesome woman. She said, Robert, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Now, did I pay attention to that, Joe? Nope, 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 nope. But over time, it began to sink in that this was a skill that most leaders didn't have. And we needed to really understand it and practice it. So I took that on as one of the big 6. The third big 6 principle is trust and empower. Empowerment is the embodiment of trust, and trust has to be earned. But you also have to set the conditions for trust to take place. Concepts like
Yeah.
Amy Edmondson's psychological safety, if you're familiar with her work there at Harvard. Psychologically safe organizations are where people can be trusted, and they can also fail even when they're trying to do right. They fail forward, I think is one of the terms you use.
Right.
But trust and empowerment is the third principle. The fourth principle is do the right thing when no one's looking. And as we say in the Pentagon, that briefs well.
Hmm.
I can assure you that here in Melbourne, Florida, when I drive my mile commute from my office or home to office, I am on a highway that speed limit's 40, but I may be the only one who's even close to 40.
It's
As
Florida.
friends of mine say, 40 is a suggestion. The speed limit is a suggestion, right? So we talk about doing the right thing, but it's not the universal truth that everybody just practices it. And the most effective leaders are the ones who keep that top of mind and seek to do the right thing when no one's looking, and teach others that is the way we should be as values-based leaders.
Hmm.
The fifth principle is when in charge, take charge. That doesn't mean you're loud, profane, abusive. That's not at all what it means. What it means is that when you're in charge, you take it upon yourself to be the calm in the chaos, to practice tactical patience.
Yeah.
You have to put all the principles together, but they give you the ability to see through the storm a little bit and be steady in the saddle. And so
Hmm.
that's why I took it on as a leadership principle. The sixth one is balance, the personal and professional. That's not about time. In fact, people talk about time management. That's no such thing. Time is finite. You can't manage it. But you can balance your life and the time you control by paying attention to 4 levels of energy: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Hmm.
And leaders who understand those battery levels and nurturing that charge in those batteries achieve the balance in life and in work that they need to be successful. But those that are chasing the clock around or believing they can text each other every day at 2 a.m. with the next good idea, they're just going to grind each other off. They're not going to lead people who are going to be better than they were. So the six principles for me are my touchstones that I use in my one-on-one coaching work, in my workshops with teams, and I also reiterate them in keynotes and speeches when I have a chance to address an audience to try and get them energized about the fact that those principles are enduring. How you apply them is through adaptive leadership, which is the topic of my most recent book, The Power of Being All In.
Yeah. Do you do mostly individual training, coaching, or are you doing corporate level type stuff?
It's a mix, Joe. I like the one-on-one coaching program because I get to know someone and they get to know me, and
Hmm.
I could be a trusted advisor. You know, growing up in the military, I didn't really have a trusted advisor. I had people who were role models and people who took the time to help me learn what right was and underwrite my mistakes. But I didn't have an advisor that I could really confide in and know that he or she was not a threat to me,
Hmm.
that he had been there and done that. He was going to listen with the intent to understand and wasn't going to try and fix me. He was just going to help me find myself. So that's what I enjoy about coaching. The teamwork really centers around workshops on the big six principles and how you apply the principles with proven tools that work. So we provide leaders with actionable, actionable tools, and then hold them accountable to it because I don't like the drive-by, one-off workshops. I like the series of workshops,
Hmm.
one on each of the big six, spaced at some intervals, maybe a couple of weeks apart, so that people have time to process what we've been talking about and apply those tools, and we can share with each other which of the tools are working better or which ones they could refine somewhat. Because leadership's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah. There's a lot of CEOs, business owners, the people at the top running things. They need a trusted advisor. They can't they can only let their guard down so much with the folks that are even the high
Yeah,
level people that are working on their staff, um,
yeah.
in cabinet, whatever you may call it. They can only let their guard down so much. So sometimes having an outside source, especially in regards to leadership, coaching, and decision making, it can be very valuable.
Well, the chaos we're living in, Joe, makes it even more demanding for adaptive leadership to be
Hmm.
part and parcel of every senior leader's kit bag. But how does he or she get that set of adaptive skills? I don't think you can just download it from the internet. I think you have to learn it and iterate with others and practice some of the skills and have someone that you can be your accountability buddy. You remember, Joe, when we were in uniform, we had battle buddies, right? You didn't go anywhere without your battle buddy. I don't know how many times I was in the front line of rest because my battle buddy did something that I was unaware of, but I was responsible for. And so, it's sort of like tell the drill sergeant I wasn't a morning person. That didn't go over well either. Then me and my battle buddy got to do a lot of push-ups for that kind of I think the term he said
Yeah.
was, that's a bullshit comment there, knucklehead, or something a little more maybe abusive in tone than that. But
Hmm.
you get the idea.
Yeah.
The trusted advisor can be your battle buddy. And I think it's an invaluable asset for men and women who are in positions of senior responsibility or seeking to move into them. And your veteran background, yours and mine, that's a tremendous asset. But we also need to be able to leverage it in a positive way.
Yeah.
And I particularly like working with veteran CEOs and C suite people because we can use our common background as a strength and help understand a little bit more about those around us because we've got to have situational awareness. I think, Joe, in many cases, veterans are not as attuned as we could be to
Hmm.
the fact that those who haven't served may not completely understand us, but they will respect us almost by default. And
Yeah.
that respect is just powerful, but you still have to earn it. You may have it initially, but you've got to earn it. And you've got to, I guess you would say, level the playing field as much as possible so that people who are veterans and part of your team and who are not veterans and part of your team all feel as though they're part of the team. And as a veteran, I think you can do that because you've been in organizations where the playing field was level,
Hmm.
where, hey, we were all soldiers, we were all Marines, and we had a mission, and we all had to pull together to do it. It didn't matter where we came from, what our financial background was, where we went to school, you know, whether the dog ate our homework, we walked uphill to school. All that is, one of my bosses used to say, true but irrelevant.
Yeah.
So I think we can do a lot of good for each other as veterans if we communicate, share, and then seek to understand, those around us in a more positive way.
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of great civilian leadership in the civilian sector, no doubt. But the
Yeah.
military is probably the only place that actually puts so much time and money into just leadership. Like
Oh yeah.
they study leadership, they preach leadership, they execute leadership. It's there's no other place that puts the kind of emphasis on training people to be leaders than the military.
Right. I spent 7 years in leadership development education of my 33 years in the military.
Mhm.
Most corporate entities, they can't afford that.
Right.
They
They got
couldn't
to make
afford that
money.
investment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they don't have the bandwidth to do that.
Right.
But we're the beneficiaries of that investment, particularly in officer and non-commissioned officer leadership programs. We can take that and employ it in our corporate experience, and we can be raving fans or advocates among our civilian contemporaries, if you will, for
Mhm.
the power of leadership development. I think some executives believe that leadership development is a luxury. That's not true. It's a necessity. And you're not going to get it by osmosis or by, putting your iPhone up to your head. You're going to get it by studying, reading, professional reading, learning, and interacting with other leaders in a very, I'd say, repetitive way, an iterative way.
Right.
I have a couple of executive coaching forums I call the Journey Team,
Hmm.
where I bring 5 or 6 executives together for a 6-month period, and we meet once a month for an hour a month about a specific business topic.
Hmm.
And what I seek to do is have them bring forward their best practices from different industries and organizations to share with each other so everybody learns in a safe place. We can be vulnerable. I think as a veteran, we initially thought it was a weakness to be vulnerable, and I think we've learned that that's a strength.
Hmm.
And those commanders that I served with who were willing to say, I made a mistake or I didn't do this well, I respected the hell out of those men and women versus the ones that there were never any defects, or it was somebody else's fault. And I've seen that in the corporate world too. That ability to be vulnerable is what learning, I would say, leadership development provides you. It provides you with an opportunity to be vulnerable, to learn from others, and to grow. And so we need to invest in it, no matter what industry we're in.
Yeah. It is tough for the civilian sector to put a lot of time and money into it because there's no immediate return on investment, so to
Yep.
speak. So it's tough for them to do that. So let's talk about your book, The Power of Being All In.
Yeah, it's a it's a story. I think we all have a story to tell.
Uh-huh.
It's a story about what happened to us when the world changed in 2020, in that time frame.
Hmm.
And the first part of the book talks about, okay, what happened to us, and social chaos and disease, war, unrest. I mean, now we saw it then, we're seeing it now. What's happened to us? It's changed us in terms of our societal interaction, our perspective of each other. I mean, it's global change. The second part of the book talks about, okay, so what did we learn? What did we learn? Did we just hunker down and go through it, or did we learn something as leaders? And I interview 14 other leaders of different companies and organizations, and they tell their stories about their journey through the chaos that still in many ways exists now.
Yeah.
And the third part of the book is, okay, we've been through this chaos, we've learned from this chaos, what do we do with it? And there I talk about the tools of adaptive leadership and how each of these executives hearken to one or more of the big 6 principles as their bedrock and how they structured their leadership development and their leading from the front without necessarily being in the front and being the calm in the chaos. And then how can you employ these tools in your journey. One of the tools I'm most fond of is the personal leadership philosophy. I learned to do this from smarter people, initially in the military and then in my corporate life. I have prepared and I put in the book my personal leadership philosophy. It
Mm-hmm.
has a personal mission statement. Who am I? What do I do? Why do I do it? Then it has my values, my operating principles, my expectations, and my commitments. And then I sign it and I date it because I want people to know this is a sincere commitment. This is not just a chat bot, right? Putting something out on the internet and declaring victory.
Mm-hmm.
So the personal leadership philosophy is one of those tools that I have found to be enormously effective, but it's a lot of work to build it. You have to, again, be vulnerable when you write it and give it to other people because they're going to hold you to it. They're going to hold you accountable to what you tell them, who you say you are, and what you say you'll do. But I think the book has a strong message. I know I'm a little biased here, but it has a strong message about our journey as leaders in the last 6 years of our lives and the opportunity that it represents. Because today is the first day of the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we are getting close to the end of our time here,
Yeah.
so I want to give you a chance to a shout out. So, how do we find out more information about Level Five Associates first, and then
Okay.
also your book, The Power of Being All In?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. First, I would encourage people to go to my new Substack platform. You go to https://robertmixon.substack.com.
Okay.
There you'll see a body of content that I've built over the last 5 years, blogs, videos, some interviews there that you could use and hopefully you find useful. And there you'll also find a link to my website, www.level5associates.com. When you go to my website, you can download chapter 1 of my book, The Power of Being All In, for free. And hopefully you'll download it. You can download the earlier version of the earlier book I wrote too called We're All In, about cultural excellence.
Okay.
And my blogs are there, podcasts are there. And I think you could use both of those platforms as places that you can visit every day, every week. You can draw material from. You can subscribe to the Substack account, and you'll get my content immediately when it's published.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would encourage people to do. Go to robertmixon.substack.com, go to level5associates.com, and take advantage of the opportunity to learn the tools of adaptive leadership. And contact me. You can reach me at robert@level5associates.com. Send me a message. I'll be glad to respond to you. Unless I'm unable to respond, which I doubt seriously, unless I'm dead or something, I'll respond to you and we can establish a conversation, about your journey, about your team, about your goals. Veteran or non-veteran, we all are on a journey as leaders, and we have a duty, I think, to those we serve to lead them the way they deserve to be led.
Awesome. Well, hey Robert, just about out of time. I want to give you the last word. If you're talking to somebody getting ready to get out of the military, maybe they just got out, they're not really happy with where they landed, looking to get into business entrepreneurship, from a philosophical standpoint, what kind of advice would you have for them?
First, if you're going to go on your own, I would say make sure you write a business plan. Don't go into a business that you're hoping and dreaming to be good at without a business plan. Ultimately, you'll risk failure, and I've seen it too many times. For young veterans, older veterans that are striking out in this corporate world and they want to be all they can be, as we say in the Army,
Yeah.
write a business plan. Second, find a trusted advisor. Find someone who's made the transition, who has been successful, who you admire and respect. Reach out to her. Say, look, I'm making a transition. Can I use you as a touchstone?
Mm-hmm.
Can I reach out to you when it seems like I'm going nowhere? Or to help me build a business plan or build my personal action plan, right, based on my leadership philosophy.
Yeah.
Those kind of outreach will serve you in great stead as a veteran. You'll have a much higher chance of success. I think you'll be much happier result.
Absolutely. All right, sir. Well, thanks for a great interview. Doing great things out there. Look forward to seeing your future success,
Thanks.
and appreciate it. And thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. God bless you guys, and God bless America.
Hoorah. All right. These two veterans are Oscar Mike.